All right, Scavengers, welcome to episode 47 of the Six Scale Scavengers podcast. We're back at it on our normal schedule. I'm your host, Bryan Fontaine, joined as always with my good friends, Chris, Letty, and TC. Guys, a little over a week ago, we did a special episode for May the 4th be with you. Brought our friend Roy in from the Netherlands, had a great conversation with some news, and I thought we'd get a head start on the news with that special episode, thinking that we'd going to continue to get this flood of new stuff. And we really only have one new item to talk about, but it's going to take a while for us to talk about. So looking forward to that. Great. We got a great agenda for everybody tonight. We are obviously going to continue with our normal segments, the Spark, the news, collection update. But you will see the episode title for this one, guys, is Hot Toys Captain Rex and Return of the DOPO, the day one pre-order. Oh, gosh, Chris, we haven't mentioned it in a while. I mean, we have t-shirts. Roy made t-shirts for us about this. This is like our catchphrase for a long time. And then it wasn't our catchphrase.
We just we kind of got away from it, and it's the ever-changing tides of Hot Toys collecting. Things are always getting us on our toes and either causing us to change directions or by whether it's by choice. But Return of the DOPO.
Yeah, break out those shirts, Bryan. I'll break out my mug. I bought a DOPO mug a long time ago.
Wearing a Baby Yoda shirt right now. Actually, it's already falling apart.
Quality.
Certainly not TeePublic quality. That's all I got to say. So before we get started, guys, I said last time out I want to apologize to our friend Zach from Collecting Weekly. He went to the effort of giving us what he thought should have been our cover art for episode 46. I mean, it is May after all, and I mean, Chris, if we had a mascot for the Six Scale Scavengers,
there he is.
I mean, it would be this guy, wouldn't it? It's gonna be May.
Oh, good old Justin Timberlake. Yep. He's almost a daily appearance by him in our chat and on the group in various threads and all that sort of thing with his disapproval. Or now it's gonna be May. I'm not a vocalist like JT. He's got the skills that one could wish they had, but that's awesome. Zach he's always coming up with a great memes and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I have like zero Photoshop skills, so I mean that's all I have to say.
Yep.
Oh yeah, so great. I'm looking forward to the chat, guys. I'm personally really looking forward to talking about Captain Rex. We got the tease for that. We spent about 20 minutes on a teaser photo with Roy. Incredible. And we'll get into it when we talk about Rex dropping, but it dropped like right before I was ready to go to sleep the other night. And I think I stayed up for like another hour after that, after I just running through all the permutations in my head of what could it mean? What else is there? Even if this is all we get, I mean, how cool is it that we're getting, we'll get into it when we talk about the figure, because there's not everybody in the collecting community is super as excited as we are about Rex dropping. And the head sculpt, I think that's the main thing that I think people are a little concerned about. And it speculated it when we talked about Into the Spider-Verse we had Lotus Stark on and talking about that. And I'm excited that there's even a possibility that we could get more clones and we don't have to worry about the sideshow clones that are 7, 8, 9, 10 years old at this point, and barely can stand without a stand.
And pricey. Suckers are expensive.
Very pricey. The prices are dropping. The prices are dropping. That's all
That's good.
Yeah. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the Spark. And I can't remember who went first last time, so we'll just start with Chris.
I think I went first last time.
Oh,
Senior
moment.
I literally can't remember. Also a senior moment. So TC, I think this was his Spark a few episodes ago, and it's the Last Dance series on ESPN with Michael Jordan. But Mark's got his JT meme always ready to go. So it's the Last Dance. I've been going through. I've been going through that series, and it's super nostalgic for me. I think I mentioned it. I don't know if it was when Cletus was on or whatever, but that was like my obsession era of the NBA. I knew everybody, every team, everything about the NBA, and I wasn't, as much as I loved Jordan's skill set, he was not my favorite player. So it was, my favorite player back in the day was Barkley. So I'm
sorry.
Yeah. Well, this was after Bird had kind of left the Celtics, and is before Paul Pierce, and watching those images of Barkley getting schooled by Jordan was heart-wrenching. But I love that series. It's not going to really get me to jump in like TC jumped into Enter Bay figures, but that's kind of where I'm headed right now.
It's funny. It's like we're in Bizarro world now. This time, Chris is talking about The Last Dance, and might I say, it's so fitting to see Chris say, "Oh, I prefer Charles Barkley." It's like everyone wants Iron Man Hot Toys figures, and Chris will then take a Nebula, or a Yondu will be his first choice, and he goes Oppo.
Yeah,
and so it's
it's
just classic.
It's always been my style. Nobody wants to hear me talk about basketball, but yeah, back in that day, Charles Barkley, Dan Marley, those were the kind of players that I was, and I just looked up to them, whereas I had nowhere near the abilities that Jordan had. I could at least rebound and play defense. So.
You do have a little bit of a resemblance to Dan Marley.
Yeah, I try. But
TC, save us here. Save us.
Yeah, well, actually, my Spark is, I think I did this before, but I'm doing it the right way this time. It's going to be Clone Wars. I'm starting it again. I started again from the beginning, but this time I took it from the chronological order that's on, I believe, what is it, Star Wars? What is it? I can't remember the site, but the Star Wars site. It gives you all the order for the entire series, how to watch it in a chronological order, and then that way, I think it gives you a better understanding of how everything's supposed to come together. So this time, I was introduced to Ahsoka in the Clone Wars movie, not in the first episode of Clone Wars, and it was good because I got that backstory to see how it all started with Anakin, and I like that movie a lot, and I like the Clone Wars series. It's pretty good. There are some dry spots still early on, but I think there's some great scenes in the series early on. I think when the clones are training and they finally get their medals, and then you see Heavy giving the medal to 99. That was a pretty good moment.
Yep.
And there's just a lot of those in there. I like Rex. He's a cool character. And I'm learning. I've always been a live action Star Wars fan, never really got into Clone Wars, but that the animation, I know it gets better. You guys say the animation, I think, gets better, and the storyline continues to develop. But I think it's pretty solid. I think the clone designs are really sweet. There's a lot of different ones early on that you get introduced to, and I know Bryan said, just wait till you see the episode Rookies. So that's the next one. I'm in the middle of the final, I believe, is Malevolence episode, and so the next one will be Rookies. So. Looking forward to that, and I guess several more seasons.
Yeah,
I'm on the road. I've been watching one or two every night.
Yeah, take your time and just enjoy
it.
The good thing too is that there's now an ending point of it, and as we'll talk about in the news, hopefully, Hot Toys starts to capitalize on it. You think about it. 7 seasons. There's like what, Chris, 133 episodes total. It's something crazy like that. I don't even want to think of like how many hours of content that would take to do. It's really good content. Like you said, TC, not all of the episodes are great. I hate to use the term like filler, but sometimes they don't always drive the story, but they tell the story. And Dave Filoni was right there with George Lucas for the majority of the series, and it's a lot of the stories that George would have told it had he had the time. And it's only about 3 years between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, but I love the clones, and then the whole there's so much about it, the background of it, and like there was no real right side, and ultimately what ends up happening, with Order 66, it's very compelling. I really love it. So the fact that now the franchise that most of us love, I mean, obviously we love Marvel and to an extent DC as well, but the passion that we all have for Hot Toys, the reason we have this podcast, the reason we have a website and a database, and that we try to help people out as much as we can. It's just like the perfect combination of all this stuff coming together. I'm pretty darn excited.
Yeah, I can already feel it swaying. It's not. I wasn't a huge fan of the prequels, but kind of swaying my enjoyment of the era before the original trilogy. So I can already tell I'm getting so much more information about what went on between Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, and it's just interesting. And like you said, the clones they're sweet, man. Loyalty to a fault.
Absolutely.
All right, before I give my spark, I just want to give a couple shout outs. There's a lot of people tuning in live, and special shout out to Rob here. He's been listening to us on iTunes for a long time, first time joining us live, and appreciate the kind words. Rob, I mean, that's the feedback that this is why we do it. We're not here to get famous, and we certainly don't. We're not experts. I think the fact that we talk about all this stuff, like, obviously we're really good friends. I mean, we would be having this conversation if it wasn't recorded for everybody else. But, I think that's been kind of our MO since the beginning, Chris. And it's just cool. There's definitely a community out there for it. And we certainly appreciate new, old listeners, everybody that's been there since the beginning. And, we try to, as Scavengers, as we kind of dub ourselves in our community, we're there to help people out. I mean, there's always new people jumping in that aren't going to have all the backstory of how Hot Toys came together, or where you should buy things and stuff like that. And we kind of cycle through topics like we are doing today, and it's just cool. So thanks everybody. I know a lot of the regulars. I saw Jesse out there, Sean, Mark, my brother in the Force. I saw Mike Collins, one of my favorite Scavengers out there. Mario, the Intergalactic Arms Dealer, a lot of people, Danny Lee, obviously. I saw Nathan out there. I think some of these guys are probably doing double duty with another show going on live right now. So we appreciate the double streaming. So good stuff there. So thanks everybody for tuning in. So I'll be brief. I kind of already alluded to it with my spark right now, but I cannot get enough of that Disney Gallery show on Disney Plus, where they're focusing on the Mandalorian. I love behind the scenes things. I love art of books. I love visual guides. It's like another thing that I collect outside of 6-scale figures. And it's funny because I've seen on social media so many people praising Dave Filoni for his just honest and masterful breakdown of the Duel of Fates and the Phantom Menace. And it's one of my favorite lightsaber fights, Chris. I know I've mentioned it to you before. And it's funny because it wasn't extremely profound, but it was just, I think people sat back, and there's this respect in the community that people have for Dave Filoni. And if he values the Phantom Menace and the prequels and the entire story of the saga of Star Wars, I think it gave some credence to, like, hey guys, you might think the prequels stink and they're not that great, but there's so many good things in there that I want to go back and I want to go back through and watch the saga again here.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome that the Mandalorian, they touch on all that stuff that was that came before it, whether obviously the direct connections with the original trilogy, but you get the flashbacks with Din and the super battle droids and Death Watch and all that sort of thing. So you're going back to that prequel era during the Clone Wars. And unfortunately, the sequel trilogy didn't really hit on that part of the saga. So to get that, and then to hear the filmmakers, all the different viewpoints, I'm right there with you. I love hearing what the directors went through to come up with their own their own voice within the Star Wars galaxy, and you just see their passion for it. And you've got veterans, you've got rookies, as far as directing goes, and you just get this collaboration between all of them. It wasn't just, okay, one of them came in for for a month and filmed an episode and then they left, and then the other one came in. You see them all talking to each other, trading notes, making sure everything's matches up with what Dave and John have written. So it's there is an interview on the Star Wars show that with David W. Collins interviews Dave Filoni and George Lucas, and they talk about their the Clone Wars behind the scenes stuff. So it's all this behind the scenes stuff that really opens your eyes up, and it shows you how involved the writers and the creators are with the actual production and all that sort of thing. So yeah, it's just good stuff for sure. I look forward to the next episode.
Yeah, can't wait. I actually watched that one twice just because I love it so much.
Yep.
But people are here to hear us talk about collecting and hot toys. It is fun just to kind of digress.
I know, you just go on rants
and talk about the things that we love and go from there. So all right, let's shift gears, guys, and shift over to news. And I think I've got the photos working properly this time. Roy did an admirable job filling in for the tech emergency that I had when we did our our last bonus episode. Hopefully, people got a kick out of that. It was weird, Chris, to not do a full-fledged episode with a review. I'm such a creature of habit. I guess as collectors, we're probably all a little crazy in the head and maybe OCD, but I got over it, and hopefully people enjoyed that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Captain Rex, May 11th, this dropped. Obviously we got the teaser on May the 4th be with you, and we could see Rex was in that teaser photo holding the Ahsoka helmet. You saw him from the neck down. I'm glad they didn't just tease the heck out of us on this one, that they actually are going to give us this figure. And we'll talk about some of the other speculation now that we do know that this is happening and what that could mean for the rest of the line. I'll just give the stats real quick, Chris, because I know you're like itching to talk about Rex here. TMS 018. So in the television masterpiece series, it's the first one in that line. The most recent ones have all been in The Mandalorian. So it's great to see that. The retail price on Sideshow is $255, and Hot Toys is estimating Q2 to Q3 2021. Sideshow's taking a little bit further. They're saying between April and June next year. Up for pre-order almost everywhere. Oh man, just Chris, take it away.
Yeah, we really went on a tangent last episode speculating about that teaser image, and man, I woke up and in the middle of the night and saw this, and I was just I had the hardest time going back to sleep. And like I said last episode, Rex is right up there with one of my favorite characters, certainly from Clone Wars. But the idea that his story continues on and builds on his character in other areas of Star Wars, I love this. I love the look of this figure just on quick glance. Obviously realistic look, but the animation style in season 7 is so freaking incredible that it's pretty close to what he looks like in the cartoon series too. It's not that much of a stretch, but just the detailing on this figure, the weathering. I mean, he definitely looks like he's seen a lot of battle action. And then, like, what's on the screen right now is just all the stuff that he comes with. I mean, the glaring one is that Ahsoka battalion style helmet, the 332nd helmet. I love that comes with it. We don't know yet if that's wearable. I don't think they show him.
I know there's some speculation out there, Chris, but it's gonna have to be. It's really easy to just put the neck peg hole in that. So
yeah. So yeah, I mean, and then we got additions to his helmet, the visors, and jetpack, and his classic pistols, and all that sort of thing. But what's the one thing that has gotten a lot of people talking?
TC, I think it's obviously the head sculpt, and obviously people wanted the animated Rex photo, but I mean, we were getting Cody from Revenge of the Sith, TC, and obviously there's going to be customizers out there that are going to help people out for this. I personally don't mind it. And the other thing, guys, is I'm going to display it with the helmet on. That's how I know Rex. Like, obviously, helmet off. He's got the short buzz cut, if bald at a lot of different times. I mean, it's just the possibilities of this. I mean, I'm almost kind of speechless. I even had a couple days to really think about what I wanted to even talk about with you guys with this. But you mentioned the detail on this, Chris. Like, I knew certain things about Rex, and obviously, he talks about modifying his armor. He preferred the Phase 1 armor versus the Phase 2. And essentially the major difference is the flexibility in the armor and the helmet. With the phase 1 helmets for clones was you'd see, obviously we don't have our faces on screen right now because I just wanted to show all the Rex here, but it's more of just more of a bucket. You don't have the 2 air holes at the front like you do with the Phase 2, which is more similar to Stormtroopers in the original trilogy. So, he kind of like, I never knew to the extent of how much he modified it until we had this in hot toy form and we had like close-ups and we went for like the realistic look. The one thing, TC, that we're kind of dancing around the conversation here is the sideshow clones that have been done previously. And I see some inspiration from those in this, but I also see things just being done a lot better. Like, to me, like the biggest thing is the undersuit, where it's definitely going to be easy to articulate this. It's more of like a mesh, more like the OT Stormtroopers versus like a rubberized material like we see in the First Order Troopers. I mean, I think people would have been really disappointed if this had the articulation of a First Order Stormtrooper.
Yeah, I mean, also those old sideshow clones, the bodies, they don't look as, I don't know, these look more bulked up, I don't know, to me, versus those. But going back to the head sculpt, I just feel a couple things. Would people be happier if there was just no head sculpt at all, and then it's just not even up? Because I could have easily released it without a head sculpt, and then just had the clone, and everyone would have been happy. Second thing is, it would be the only figure in an entire Star Wars line so far that would be animated. People reference the Into the Spider-Verse figures, but that's a separate movie in its own universe. It's not part of the MCU, so it's a little bit different. This is, these Star Wars characters, you're going to put them on your shelf with every other movie masterpiece series figure, it's gonna, to me, if you're gonna pose it with that head sculpt, it'd look out of place. But they obviously already have the Cody sculpt. It's just business sense to then leverage what you already have. People can say it's lazy. I say it makes the most sense. And really, every decision comes from Howard, as far as we know. Maybe he just wanted it in his collection this way. And it could be that simple. Give you the clones, but I want the sculpt. And that's how he, decided it. But it's great, man. I'd like to. I'm way behind in the series, obviously, but I hope you can use the Ahsoka head mask on the figure. That'd be cool.
Yeah, Chris, I think with the image that we have on the screen now on YouTube is obviously the full-fledged photo of the teaser, where we're seeing everybody. We're seeing all the 501st troopers with the Ahsoka helmet. You said the 332nd. And I think my speculation where it goes from here is I think we're going to get at least the troopers behind him. We're going to get a 501st, 332nd. I think you're going to be able to get both helmets with it, so you can kind of swap them. And I think people are going to have the opportunity to army build if they want to. If that's the case, I would probably get one. I might get two. I'm not big into getting doubles. I prefer to get individual figures in the different product numbers and stuff. But if you can display one with a 501st and one with Ahsoka's battalion, that's one way to get two different troopers on your shelf. And I love clone troopers. I'm a sucker for clones, and I'm a sucker for stormtroopers. So mix the two together, and I'm gonna be a fan. I mean, if they've got this phase 2 clone trooper behind them, Chris, the armor's the same for all of them. It's just painted differently. I mean, at what point are we going to stop and say 501st, Ahsoka's division? I keep messing it up, so I'm just going to call it Ahsoka's division.
Yeah.
What about the 212 attack battalion, Obi-Wan's? You can match those up with Cody. You can put them on a shelf with Obi-Wan. There's so many other ones. I mean, Commander Wolf division. I mean, are we going to get other ARC troopers? They're starting to go that way. I mean, could we get Jesse, Fives, Echo? Could they go back a couple seasons? You could. That's why I couldn't sleep the other night, guys. Like, as soon as I thought it was like, okay, they're definitely doing this now. Like, where do they stop?
Yeah,
the fact they have to look at the aftermarket and look at these sideshow clones that are going 4 and 5 times what they did on retail. And people love the Clone Wars. This is like some of the best Star Wars. Like, how many people, Chris, did you see online or another podcast say, this is some of the best Star Wars that we've gotten? Yeah. And it's in animated form. Collectors want, I mean, Rex, I saw so many people talking about this figure on social media that aren't even necessarily hot toy collectors. They're just fans of Clone Wars and Rex. And like, the pre-order numbers for this figure are going to be through the roof. They're going to be through the roof.
Yep. And we've already seen, I think at least one retailer is already sold out on the pre-orders. I haven't really dug too deep on other retailers. I think BBTS sold out. And yeah, I mean, just talking about different clones. I mean, you could even go with like Gree, on Kashyyyk with Yoda. I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, there's so many possibilities. And then we've already gotten an airborne trooper teased. I think one of Cody's, was it 442nd? What was it?
The 212.
Oh, 212. Yeah.
I think I messed this up a couple episodes ago talking about
I get them. I used to
442nd's green. That's why.
Okay.
I think they've only done them in Lego form, but
yeah. So there's just just different paint applications, and so my feeling on the head sculpt. Look, I think what they gave us, the prototype looks freaking amazing. Like, I think it's right up there with Cody's head sculpt. Just obviously different hairstyle and all that sort of thing. But it's tough. Like, obviously, if they did an animated version, like, I would expect the entire thing to be more stylized. You know, the body and the suit and all that stuff. I guarantee somebody's gonna come up with a an animated style head sculpt. So I wouldn't worry about that if, and because we've got a lot of time here, a year plus before this guy hits our collections. So I don't know. I mean, you were talking earlier about the detail in this, and I love the look with the welding beads on his helmet and his armor and stuff, with the heat scoring and all that. That is just next level detail that, I don't think that's...
Yeah, I mean, this is even better than Cody, it seems. It's really ridiculous how intricate all the details are.
Yeah.
I don't even know much about this armor. It just looks incredible. But
I mean, he's got the J guys. I mean, Chris, I think I talked to you guys the other day, and I'm like, I always wondered why there was gold on, his Hasbro Black Series figure. It just didn't make any sense to me, but it makes perfect sense now. He took his Phase 1 helmet and tried to say, hey guys, yeah, I got a Phase 2, look. And I mean, you've got all the tick marks on it, the weathering, even on his, on the backs of his hands, he's got additional... You can see where he's doing the classic pose where he's kind of crossing both of his blaster pistols. He's got a jetpack, a flight stand, a visor, the other helmet. This, in terms of like my excitement level for like a new figure, this is like right up there with the Beskar Mando. Like, it's almost now one of my most anticipated figures. Don't sleep on this thing.
Probably pre-ordered if you're a fan. And there's no point in playing a game of chicken with this one. But I think they're going to continue with the clones. But if you look at the history of Hot Toys, if you even go to their most popular figure, Iron Man, you get 3 a year maybe on average. I mean, when they started doing their diecast line, they started out with the Mark 6 or the Mark 3. And then they moved to the Mark 6, paired the Mark 6 with the Mark 5, and then it was the 46, 47. So I think you're going to get maybe like 3 a year, 4 a year maybe. You're not going to get 10. I don't think that's going to happen. It's going to be a slow play by Hot Toys because they know the popularity. Yeah. And they'll just keep slowly building on each clone release. Once Cody comes out, give you a new one probably. And but it's going to be a great ride if that's something you're willing to play the patience game on. But
I mean,
go ahead, Chris.
No, I was just going to say best bet I would say would be these guys right behind Rex in this image, the Ahsoka's division. That would be my best guess. What's coming next, or potentially like the Airborne Trooper. Something that's already been teased potentially to stagger them. But I'm right there with you. I think if they do go down this rabbit hole and allow the clone floodgates to open, I think they'll just be printing money at that point.
What about, I know this is kind of off the clone topic, but what about a General Skywalker, General Kenobi, and Ahsoka? Does Hot Toys, do you think they might release one of those in animated form or a more realistic look? Like, would they give the Kenobi sculpt from Revenge of the Sith, put that on a General Kenobi body, the armor? And would they do the same for Anakin? I think that might be a possibility you could get. And maybe, I don't know how they do Ahsoka.
Yeah, I think I think if anything, TC, I think they would just reissue those two figures. I mean, the aftermarket for them is both crazy right now.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Every other looking in search of ISO on like 1/6 Republic BST, people want Kenobi, they want Anakin. The market's doubled for both figures.
Man, I would love it if they reissued.
I think they're going to just
Anakin.
reissue it. It just makes more sense. They've already got everything. They could just redo the figures versus doing another version.
Well,
you know, Ahsoka, Chris, is. I wanted to throw it over to you with Ahsoka.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing that everybody is wanting now. I struggle with it because it would be an entirely new head sculpt and a body and everything. You know, obviously there's pretty strong rumors that we may not have to wait too long to see her in live action, depending on if you believe the rumors or not. Do they wait until then to do it? I don't know. That's the thing that worries me. I think they could do her in a realistic version, and obviously fan art and a lot of different things out there. They've already taken like Rosario Dawson and made her look like Ahsoka now. I don't know. If they give it to me, if they give it to us, I will not complain. I just don't want collectors to kind of get their hopes up just because they're really kind of reusing some of the tech that they did for Commander Cody here to potentially give us a figure that a lot of Star Wars fans want. And now they can build on that to potentially give us 501st, the 212. I mean, those would be my two picks for the rest of the year of other clones that they give. I mean, the ones behind Rex here do look nice, but I wish they would be a little weathered. This is a very clean version. So if maybe there's even two versions, maybe there's a battle damage version of each clone, a clean and a battle damage for all those army builders.
Stop giving Howard ideas.
Oh man!
Well, if he listens, I mean, well, I'll keep giving him ideas.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, so like, as far as Anakin and Obi-Wan goes, I could see them using the existing figures, but tweaking them just enough to make it a different TMS release. So like, it's light side Anakin, but he's got, you know, some different Clone Wars specific gear or something, or Obi-Wan, the same, you know, same deal, just slightly tweaked with maybe an accessory or two.
So that's the thing. When you do that, you open up the market tremendously. Yeah. You don't cut off the people that already purchased the figure, so you can produce so many more. You know, the demand will be so much higher. If I've already got both those figures, would I go get another Anakin or Obi-Wan? Probably not. But if they're in the Clone Wars outfits and in the armor, then I probably would. So
I think, I mean, that's obviously wishful thinking, that they would go that route, especially where those figures aren't really that old. So it would work in their benefit because they're not that far off the production line, but also, you know, would they think that that's their efforts going towards those figures right away would make sense. But you know,
I mean, it's just fun to speculate.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing for collectors right now to, you know, have this as even an option right now. It's just crazy. Oh, we could keep talking.
I know. It's a fun stuff to talk about.
We could make this the Captain Rex show, and I'm not sure that many people would would mind. So just a couple other things I wanted to talk about before we got to our collection update. Obviously, we spent a lot of time on Captain Rex there, rightfully so. So, guys, we knew that the Mud Trooper was going to be a hot commodity. There was a very few of us in the community that had pre-ordered it, that were very excited about it from the beginning. Surprise, surprise, guys. It released in Hong Kong. There's some really good reviews out there. People are already digging it. And TC, you've already found out in doing some research that you normally do for the show that we may be dealing with a whole nother Shore Trooper issue here.
Yeah, this is a This is interesting because it's rare. I don't even know if I've ever seen it where a regular release, just straight up movie masterpiece series, especially in Star Wars, sells out from pretty much every retailer before it even hits the States. It's usually not like that. It's been quite a long time if that was ever the case. And like you said, Brian, everyone thinks the pre-order numbers were low. These figures got delayed. They're coming up on 2 years. I don't know if they crossed the 2-year mark from announcement.
They were just shy. I think
Yeah.
it was like 1 year, 11 months, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, basically 2 years. My theory is pre-orders are low. Hot Toys adjust their production based off that. But as we get closer to the anticipated release, the late pre-orders come sprinkling in. All of a sudden, you've got a situation where Hot Toys, and then you combine this with the current world situation. Hot Toys closes production. They're good to go. All of a sudden, the pre-orders are gone. There's no supply. And then everyone's left scrambling, and the only places you can seemingly get one are overseas in Hong Kong from the major sellers there, and basic pop culture. You can get it there, I think. Right now, the Australian seller of Hot Toys, official distributor of Hot Toys for that continent and that country. But yeah, it was a struggle, man. It seemed like the day it went waitlisted everywhere, I couldn't find it anywhere. So I called my guy, called Steven from Steven's Collectibles. I said, Steven, can you get me the figure? And he said, let me check my quantities tomorrow. Sure enough, he got me one. I got one locked in. So whenever it comes to him, I'll just pay him, and hopefully it'll be here within a few days after that. But it was tough. Even Justin, Chris's friend Justin Rowland, giving me a message telling me what to do, and it was quite the 24 hours for the Mud Trooper fans out there who hadn't locked in an order yet. What do you think, Chris?
It's crazy, and it kind of was a perfect storm for this figure and for these solo figures, because just that delay and then everything that happened, and just the fact that line, it didn't really get the support as far as more figures, and which we could speculate there's plenty of characters that could get figures from that line or are worthy of figures, but this Mud Trooper, the fact that it's a really unique looking trooper, he's really cool, detailed. I watched I think Justin's collection, his review, and just the detail on the mud splatter and everything. I just can't even say how much I'm looking forward to having this figure in hand. And I think that's kind of what happened with the Shore Trooper. A little bit different circumstances, worldwide, that contributed to this one. But once people started doing reviews and seeing in-hand pics, it's just like, oh man, this thing's like, they knocked this thing out of the park, and it can be a stand-in for another trooper. You don't have to have the Han head sculpt showing, which is pretty cool. We don't get that too much with Hot Toys figures.
But that sculpt's insane.
I know.
You can very well use it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm glad I locked one in from Underground Figures, Ray over there. And I think there's the likelihood that they would do a second batch, I think, is pretty much nil. It's a super side character / trooper. It is Han Solo, but it's a very small part in the movie, and I think this is going to be one of those ones that probably has good value for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think so. Sideshow's waitlist. If you don't have it, get on the waitlist.
Mm-hmm.
Do what we did recently. Call up your local comic shop, see if they can get it. Obviously, we have some our preferred smaller retailers. You guys mentioned Underground Figures with Ray, super great guy. Also, Steven's Collectibles in Texas. Also, likewise, just I think that's one thing that we'll talk about in kind of our topic of doing that. So, guys, don't wait. like we try to tell you guys not to wait ahead of time, especially when we start seeing the first blogger photos. The excitement level I know in the scavenger community is pretty high on this. I know Roy, it's like one of his like most anticipated figures of the year. That's some pretty high praise. So I mean, he even got to the point too where his wholesaler, like in the Netherlands, he wasn't even sure if like now when when you start to get that that FOMO, Chris, the fear of missing out, and even if you do have one secured, you're like, how secure is my secured figure?
Right.
And obviously, us being really good friends, we told Roy we'd see what we could do to see if we could secure one. But I think he's good. Do what you need to do to get the figure if you want it. Don't get the figure just to get it because people are talking about it like us and we're excited about it. Make sure it fits your collection.
Yeah.
There are going to be people that are just going to get it to flip it and try to get double retail for it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. So just because it's waitlist and you might not be able to find it many places right now, doesn't mean it's going to be impossible to acquire. Even after a lot of these other figures like the Patrol Trooper and the Shore Trooper, you could still get them.
Yeah.
Not like really, you'd get them over retail, but the longer you wait to get a figure, it's never going to get cheaper. It's only going to get more expensive unless there's like another version of it or a reissue or just for whatever reason, like the interest level and it falls out. I mean, even like the Battlefront figures that back in 2015, 2016, those are still holding tons of value. I mean, Star Wars, we've talked about it. Star Wars figures hold value. They rarely ever go down unless they're a first order stormtrooper. And that was just, there was so many of them and the quality wasn't necessarily what people expected. So, that's ultimately why those ended up in the bargain bin. So.
Yeah.
You tend to get, I think they don't get the same production as some of the Marvel stuff, but then the collecting base is, in my opinion, more loyal. And each figure for Star Wars has its place in the entire Star Wars saga. So it's kind of leads it to where Star Wars figures, like you said, Bryan, especially the side characters that don't get the production, don't get the screen time, they end up being the ones that are the most valuable. So watch out for this one.
Like the Death Star gunner, guys?
I know,
Yeah,
like
I know.
that.
What's
Like,
up
what
with
is
that?
I would love to add a Death Star gunner. Chris Benward, chides me all the time because I should have locked one down a while ago, and it was a little over retail, and I got greedy, and now that one's like double, triple retail.
It's not coming back.
It's not coming back. I mean, it's a nice figure, but it's not essential. I'm not gonna waste my budget on knowing I'm overpaying for a figure. There's way too many good figures coming down the line to get excited about to overpay for anything right now. But I digress. Just quickly, guys, and I guess a little bit of a precursor. I don't technically have it yet, so I can talk about it now. It's not necessarily part of my collection update, but you guys mentioned Stevens from Stevens Collectible reached out to me and let me know that my pre-order for Director Krennic, he took a photo of it, sent it to me earlier today in Messenger. Minty fresh box. I am really excited to get the Director in my collection. Add it to Rogue One. I'll then be complete on Rogue One again. Oh, it looks so good. But it's in stock now, TC, at Sideshow. I know Mike, one of our faithful scavengers, noticed that yesterday.
Yeah, it's another one where I don't think you should wait too long, because now Krennic, really, the Death Trooper's already out there, Tarkin's out there, Rogue One's complete. He's the last piece, so I think people are going to want to get him to finish their lines, finish their pairings, their shells. It's not like he was just released by himself. He's got purpose, and Star Wars, and it's just on a roll right now, and I think you're going to want to snag this one while you can. He's also, I think, sold out at BBTS and several other places at the moment. So,
yeah, I mean, that's one. Once they, Sideshow's always got those coupons and stuff coming out here and there. So once they go in stock, usually they're applicable to those figures. So I would keep an eye out. The last couple times I've pre-ordered from Sideshow, I have not gotten a coupon, but sometimes you can do some of their contests or do some other things here or there to get a deal.
Yeah,
But-
Danny Lee got his from Steven as well. So glad to see Scavengers supporting the smaller retailers, comic
Mhm.
shops, and whatnot. So yeah, Chris, you did mention it. For some reason, I had a code from ordering a figure. I think it's because I pre-ordered something recently. I had to pre-order through Sideshow, and you can use the $25 code for Krennic. Unfortunately, it's just basically going to cover your shipping, and you can get that price or better at some of our local retailers.
Yeah.
So that's a scavenger pro tip right there.
Yeah.
Sideshow is ultimately the big kahuna, but you can beat their price if you know where to look, and that's where our website and the database and stuff to help people see what else is available out there is going to be helpful for scavengers going forward.
Now to the favorite portion of the show.
That's right.
The
Go ahead,
most
Bryan.
entertaining part of the show, apparently.
Yeah, Brian's
The collection update. Yeah, I'm usually the star of this unintentionally. Talking to our buddy Mark the other day, him and Robert, I usually have a thread going with them, and I was telling him, like, hey guys, I thought it was gonna be quiet again. I keep saying that. It just ended up being busy. And Mark was saying that, well, people need their entertainment. And there we go. I don't want to go first, though, guys. I'll let you guys go first.
I'll go first.
Okay.
I'll lead it off. All right, so I did order the Luke Skywalker deluxe set from Return of the Jedi. Got that from Pop Culture. I used their reward system. I've had some rewards banked. Their reward system's pretty good. They call it pennies. And so when you order a figure, you actually get credit, I think, immediately when the figure ships or sooner. So there's no 2-month or 45-day wait period. You get the credit immediately, and it builds up pretty quickly. So I was able to get 35 off, and the Australian dollar is pretty weak to the US dollar. So, combination there that got that for a really good price. So that's on its way. It's still in Australia. It was ordered 2 weeks ago, but it's understandable. But I did order that one. And I sold my Concept Iron Man Mark 46. Had this one for a while. Bryan knows I've been trying to sell it for a while.
It's cursed.
Had some buyers back out. Look, it's a great figure. It's really sweet. The design is obviously it's a Mark 46 suit, but with more gold, not as much red. Oh no. It's not like that. I'm not getting rid of the other Avengers figures and that kind of thing, but it was just there are some Marvel things I just don't need. They're kind of outside my scope, and that's one of them. But was able to get a good price for that and sold that, and have to ship that out. And my first DOPO in like 6 months, I did pre-order Rex.
Yes.
I just like the design.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go through the whole series and then somehow the sucker's waitlisted early for some odd reason. There's no harm in doing it. It's a great looking figure. And planned on getting Cody anyway for Revenge from Revenge of the Sith, and this is a good way to pair that together. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, Cletus is out there rooting you on here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What'd he say?
I think he just changed his YouTube channel recently to half gladiator, half geek. So
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
I also, for those that say I'm selling Marvel, I did buy a Hall of Armor with some BBTS credit, Big Bad Toy Store credit. Just one.
Oh yeah.
I have two, so I wanted a third one. I just think they look great. I know a lot of collectors say, well, limit your posing with the Iron Man figures, but I don't know, man. Those first 7 armors in the Hall of Armor is just such a classic look. So it's, you combine that, you can light them up with batteries, or you can wire them. Mine are just lit by battery if I choose to. It's just it's a nice look, and the armor really shines in it, and it's kind of like they have a home. And so I went ahead and did that, and looking forward to getting that hopefully in the next couple weeks.
Still holding out hope for a Mark 1 diecast someday.
Oh yeah. If the Mando series would stop getting figures released, it's a television movie series line. It's not the movie masterpiece line. I'm trying to get to 600 here.
Yeah.
MMS 600. I've just the rumor.
You and
Mark
you and
1
Roy,
diecast.
You and Roy were speculating about that recently.
Yeah.
That 600 could be the Mark 1 diecast,
but everything's TMS now. Clone Wars, Mando.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, what do you got?
Yeah. Not a ton going on. Jeddah Patrol Trooper arrived. That small batch that popped up on Sideshow. So I got that figure. Looks awesome. Putting that in the Rogue One lineup. Getting pretty much as complete as I'm probably going to be with that line. Waiting for Krennic here. Might pick up a Rogue One Stormtrooper, just a plain one, if I can find one like basically at retail. I don't want to pay much more than that. And then I'm right there with TC. I mean, surprise, surprise, pre-ordered Rex, DOPO, back at it. And also decided to finally order a Qui-Gon, and I ordered those both from Underground Figures in Ray in Rhode Island there. So glad to get those locked in. And then I'm selling a bunch of non-1/6 scale stuff. There's a group on Facebook. Some listeners might know about it. It's called Deal or No Deal, and it's like the hottest thing going right now. And I recommend people check it out because there's some stuff that's popping up, vintage wise and modern, whatever. That's pretty crazy. And then also on eBay. But that's kind of. I mean, I'm selling stuff not to buy fun things, to pay for house bills.
Being an adult.
Yeah. It sucks being an adult, but we'll get back at it sometime here in the near future. But what everybody's been waiting for, let's hear Bryan's
the main event
lineup here.
It was going to be quiet, guys.
2 weeks is a long time.
It really is. It really is. And I just now looking at it, I forgot to put two things on the purchase list. So I'll make sure to cover it. I was spacing it with everything I needed to put in our show notes. So I'll mention those first before I talk about everything else. So everybody knows I've been going through and updating we've shifted from calling our website having checklists to databases, just because we do have pages like for each figure. At this point, I think we're 2/3 of the way through all the Marvel, DC, and Star Wars figures. The Star Wars figures are 100% complete, 133, 134 now. About half the Marvel left and maybe a third of the DC left. Anyways, so just going through that, I start to get ideas. And I was looking at like maybe starting a couple other mini focuses. I love droids. I love astromech droids. And I was looking through our checklist and finding out like, well, there's not too many more that they've made in Hot Toys that I don't have. So I was looking at it, and I used to have the Force Awakens R2. I do have the deluxe now, and TCU and I worked out a deal for that. So I was able to add that R2 back. And then I was perusing the website for Ray at Underground Figures and noticed that he had the BB-8 and the BB-9 2-pack available for retail. And we like supporting our friends in the community, local smaller retailers, and went ahead and added that. So I've actually got like this crazy shelf now with the Sideshow 3PO, 2 R2s, 2 BB-8s, BB-9, and the star of the show is the mouse droid that comes with the BB 2-pack. So that was my additions. Pre-orders. We talked about it on our special episode. I was waffling at that point about the Empire Strikes Back Vader. I was kind of bummed that I missed that initially, and so I did go ahead and pre-order it. Unfortunately, because it's a quasi-exclusive, at least in North America, you have to get it through Sideshow. Smaller retailers aren't going to get it. We double checked, asked around. They just weren't going to have it available on their wholesale list. So I did pre-order that through Sideshow, and then obviously getting Captain Rex from Ray at Underground Figures, and that was able to secure that. So from there, guys, I decided I was trying to be responsible. I was trying to do some budgeting and looking at all the things that I've got planned coming up. And not that I got completely overextended or blew the budget and by any means, but decided that I could probably pare down some figures that I had, mostly Marvel. I have 4 Marvel figures left, guys. I have 3 Captain Americas, 2 Civil War, 1 Infinity War, and I've got Scarlet Spider. And Scarlet Spider is kind of on the precipice of maybe not hanging around too much longer. So Sean move along. Yeah, move along. Just nothing to see here. I do have 2 caps on pre-order. I've got both from Endgame. So Sean was just asking me what the heck happened to Thanos. I thought I was going to keep Thanos, but he went. Black Widow went. Wonder Woman concept. I had a little fling with Wonder Woman. She's now gone. Sold Black Widow and Wonder Woman on eBay. Sold Thanos to another Sean in our group, and I sold my Markel, the Infinity War Mark 50 on eBay. I talked about it last episode 45 that I was really bummed that it broke. I couldn't fix it. Not Iron Geek 37 by any means. I just didn't think I could fix it. I was just bummed that every time I looked at it on the shelf, it just knew that the arm was broken. So full disclosure, I just listed on eBay exactly the condition of everything that it was in. Somebody got a screaming deal on it. Actually, the guy that bought it works on microelectronics and is probably going to be able to fix it and probably got basically a brand new Markel for like half price. So went ahead and did that. And then some other so I did actually sell a few Star Wars figures, guys, Troopers, and they just didn't really match the other setups and stuff that I had. I sold my Sith Trooper from Rise of Skywalker to Aaron in our group. My brother in the Force, Mark, he's the beneficiary of a new Sand Trooper. I didn't think I was going to be able to have a Tatooine setup and with my New Hope figures and move that along. And then the big one, and we just reviewed it, guys. It's like the kiss of death in my collection is we review a figure and then it's gone. Hopefully it doesn't mean anything for Maul that we're going to talk about tonight. But I did sell my Snowtroopers in the group, and I struggled with it because I was looking at all the cool stuff that I had coming up, and just outside of Hoth Leia, I didn't really have anything. And I'm not sure if they do release Empire Strikes Back versions of Hoth. I'm sure I'd be weak-willed and I would probably have to get them anyways, but I don't know. I wasn't feeling them. So obviously they're still going for quite a bit. I basically sold them for what I bought them for. So that worked out. And then that money will go back into the budget. So yeah, just some crazy stuff. I didn't expect to do that, but you never know when inspiration's going to strike.
He's right there for you, Bryan.
We can all see him.
I think Chris would buy him before I would.
Yeah. It was. They're those kind of figures. They just look awesome. But I would rather you get what you could get for them.
Yeah, that's true.
Then
it's a lot of money.
Yeah. So it's so funny. Like, what's up, Chief? Is like, is anybody collecting Marvel anymore? Yes, we are. Yeah,
Cletus still got Marvel. There's plenty of Marvel scavengers that are out there collecting Marvel.
TC's got. I just opened up my Homecoming Spider-Man today to show my girls, and then I sealed it back up again.
It's back in that factory shelf right behind you there.
That's right.
The Root Cellar 2.0.
Yeah, I mean, Marvel's not releasing anything right now as far as like actually putting figures in people's hands. So I think we'll get I think most of that stuff's going to come later this year.
Yeah, there's plenty of people in the chat right now that are obviously once the MCU gets back in gear, once Black Widow drops, people are going to get excited about it again, because there's going to be a little bit of a lull for Star Wars. I mean, it's going to be at least 2.5 years until there's another Star Wars feature film. Obviously, we have The Mandalorian season 2, hopefully a season 3 of that as well. The Cassian Andor series, and there's a lot of other stuff that's kind of being rumored now, but I don't know. The really thing I'm glad about with Star Wars now is we can kind of like enjoy what we have. There's more coming. It's semi-critical to like the story of what's going on, but because it's existing like outside of the main saga, there's so many things that you're going to be able to pick and choose about what you like or dislike about Star Wars. If you want to ignore the sequels, you can ignore the sequels. If you don't like the prequels for any reason, you don't have to pay attention to them. There's just so many different things out there for Star Wars fans.
Yeah. And like we've talked about before, Marvel and Star Wars are just so different with the way you can collect and display the figures. It's where Star Wars is a little bit more evergreen. We talk about having evergreen content. Marvel is like almost always the next best thing. Like the next figure is going to be the best version. And it's easier to not go back on a lot of lines. Like you could just not have any of the Age of Ultron line and you're fine, or you have none of the Civil War line and you're fine. You can pick and choose to add, like Scarlet Witch or Falcon to add to your Endgame line, because they're probably never going to release them. But it's just a different animal, honestly.
Yeah, the moment they do, then that takes a massive hit.
Yeah,
to the Civil War version. See, with Star Wars, your Luke Skywalker from Return of the Jedi has almost no influence on the Bespin Luke Skywalker. Each has its own place in the saga, and Star Wars fans want both.
Yeah,
all of them.
All of them.
Yeah, right.
All of the Luke Skywalker. So, guys, let's shift gears and talk about our main topic. And we've alluded to it throughout the show, so we don't necessarily have to rehash a lot of what we talked about here. But the return of the day one pre-order. Chris, you mentioned it a bit ago. What's going on in the world right now, people's priorities. I think we're all privileged to be able to talk about collecting, to still be able to collect with the way things are right now. Consider yourself fortunate to be able to do that. However, we need to kind of continue to evolve and adapt to the collecting atmosphere as it is. Going back now 47 episodes, things are much different now than when we started this thing. And, there was a point in time where you had to pre-order everything, or maybe it was just fun to pre-order everything. We had that catchphrase. And then you really didn't need to, because things sat on retailers and Sideshow for the longest time, just because there were so many Marvel figures out there. And then even Star Wars figures sat because people weren't into Star Wars at that point. And now you've seen I wouldn't say a complete shift, but a shift of preferences for collectors, where even if I look at our website traffic, guys, Star Wars is beating Marvel in our databases and stuff like by 2 to 1, and sometimes it's 3 to 1 on any given day, month, week, whatever range that we look at. So people that are in our community that are checking out our website, which we love, by the way, Star Wars is definitely where the popularity is. And with what we talked about with the Han Solo Mud Trooper and some of these other releases that we saw that maybe weren't as super popular, and maybe TC in the past, you could say, well, I don't need a pre-order. I don't want to pay an NRD. I don't want to have to lock myself in to do this. And I don't even know a year and a half, 2 years down the line, if I'm even going to still love this movie or like this character or still want to collect this line or whatnot. You have to play the long game with hot toy collecting. But if you could find a place to pre-order that's a smaller retailer, comic shop that don't necessarily require that NRD, and you can have a long-standing relationship with them to be able to help each other out, then it makes sense to pre-order, because they may only have a certain allotment on their wholesale list to be able to get, and once that's gone, they can't get anymore.
Yeah, and I think now more than ever, you see people wanting to do that. So, for instance, Sideshow, as recent as 2019, end of 2019, there wasn't tax charged to a lot of collectors. So you get a coupon from Sideshow, maybe some rewards, maybe you get free shipping if they have a sale, but that no tax, that's $25. Well, that really kept them on an even playing field. Now you go to a smaller retailer, they may not charge tax to your state, or they may not do enough business in your state to need to charge sales tax. So that's savings right off the bat. And then a lot of them give really good shipping costs. So you combine those two things, you're looking at $20-$30 savings a figure. You do that 10 times, that's an extra figure. So there's that. And then also, recently, I mean, Star Wars is so hot that it's almost like you don't necessarily need to do a day one pre-order, but you should keep your I guess be aware of the sites that have stock of the figures you want, and if you want to end up pre-ordering before the figure drops in Hong Kong, there's no harm in doing that. I just would advise only do it if you know you want it 100%, because you don't really want to cancel on especially these smaller retailers that they place orders and they're held to it by Sideshow regardless if you hold the order yourself or not. So just understand you want the figure 100%, and then I think it's a pretty good strategy. And heck, if you didn't do that now with the Mud Trooper, you'd be out of luck.
Yeah, Sean's saying that, Chris, right now in the chat too, where I think that was a good correction of what I was saying, TC, and I should have phrased it in that way too. It's not to order from the smaller retailers because you don't have an NRD, and there's no. I would feel absolutely horrible if I had to cancel pre-order even if I didn't have an NRD, because I know that they would have had to essentially allocate themselves one. Could they sell it pretty easily afterwards? Yeah, but I wouldn't want to do that to somebody. So good point there, TC.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely something to think about, where, a lot of us have canceled pre-orders from Sideshow, from BBTS and the like. So we know it, if it has an NRD, I mean, we take the hit for sure. And then those add up. If there's no NRD, then, whatever, but definitely with the smaller retailers, that's why I waited so long to order some of these figures, because I'm like, I wanted to make sure that I definitely, I knew that I wanted them. And yes, it might take longer to get the figures because, pretty much everything comes through Sideshow. So you're looking at, you're probably looking at an additional week to 4 weeks from some of these other smaller guys. But, I think going back to the return of the DOPO, I mean, I hadn't done a day one pre-order in forever, and I had pre-ordered the vintage style Boba Fett. That was a day one pre-order, and this Rex, I had to lock it in just because it's a figure that I 100% want, and I wanted to try to give my business to a retailer that's pretty local, and his prices are really good. And in New Hampshire, we don't pay sales tax, so that definitely helps with the bottom dollar. But yeah, it was really weird. I mean, we're so into day one pre-orders for quite some time, and I don't know if it was by plan or whatever, but I mean, there was almost no figures that were sold out at Sideshow for a good long while. And then we start hitting these breaks and stuff. And
Well, if you just back it up before Infinity War,
yeah,
you've got Ragnarok, which Gladiator Thor it sold out pretty quickly.
yeah,
You have Yondu, sold out pretty quickly. Hela, that one,
Mhm.
I think that one may have sat, but if you go a little before Infinity War, it was actually, I think, worth it. Once you got to Infinity War, the hype was so extreme for that
Yeah.
movie. I think Hot Toys just put on the printing press for those figures,
Mhm.
and they just sat. And some of them still sit. They're just starting to go, and it's nothing against the figures themselves. Just the demand's just not there right now for them. So the dynamics have changed, and then all of a sudden now, with Star Wars picking up popularity, and then you get these early wait lists. It changes how you think. It's just you're always changing because you can only react to the market and what it tells you.
Yeah. It's just like I'm sure, I think it was Aero Maestro or whatever was commenting how things have changed with us since first episode, and these waves that we've been going on with our collecting charities, and how like everything's always shifting, and it just makes it fun. And we could predict and we could speculate on where the market's going to go from here. We hope that everything goes back to normal and the economy gets back to where we'd like it to be, and we can collect these figures without worrying about that other stuff, and we can just focus on this fun stuff. But I mean, if they're gonna continue to release figures like Rex, then you got to get that DOPO button ready, especially with the smaller retailers and stuff. And we're learning, especially. I mean, I was strictly Sideshow. I ordered from Sideshow basically religiously for quite some time, and I was really reluctant to go elsewhere to pre-order or buy a new figure. And then I branched off to BBTS a little bit, and then starting to get into these smaller retailers. And I think we're learning that these smaller retailers do only have a certain allotment. And I inquired about Cody with one retailer, and he's like, I don't have it anymore. I don't have any more that I can order. So I'm like going to, I'm seeing if, another retailer can get it, because I'd rather give my business to them, honestly. And you just got to think about that. Think about that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, God, our episode's already going long. We could keep talking about this. We do got to review Darth Maul, who was our 2019 Figure of the Year. Kind of slipped through the cracks, guys, on reviewing him fully. I mean, we've talked about him plenty, but to do the full review, we need to get to that. But I just saying in closing, guys, and if you guys have anything else to add before we move on to Maul, please go ahead. But I said it at the beginning of the episode. We're here to help people. It's fun being able to talk with friends when we talk in the podcast. When I get to talk to both of you, we talk to Roy daily in our community. The people that join us live that also can chat live. It's fun to talk about this. There's nobody else that really understands this. And collectors understand each other. We get it. We get why there's sometimes a pull to want to get a second figure of a really expensive figure, but sometimes you just gotta do it. So
yep. My friends and family that don't understand collecting think I'm completely insane. So.
Well, you are.
Yep, I am.
You are. Yeah, we'll keep covering it. We're here to help. We've got these podcasts, we've got our website, we've got our Facebook page and stuff. It's we're there to help, regardless of whatever your experience level is. And there's others that are more experienced in the community that help us out. They help out other newer scavengers and collectors, and it's fun. I think that's the thing I enjoy about what we're doing the most. As Danny said, it's our thing. It's what we do.
Yeah.
Darth Maul.
Yep.
Darth Maul. Very timely, talking about the Duel of Fates earlier today, guys.
Oh, man.
Only an expert brings that into the show. Connects the dots from the beginning to end.
Yeah. That's what we've learned a thing or two in 47 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
It's about time we cover this figure, guys. So we're going to do kind of a dual review. Chris, do you have the speeder version?
Whoops, sorry. Yes, I do.
All right, so you have DX17. I have DX16, which is just the figure itself. We're going to kind of cover them both as we talk about it here. But before we get into it, and I've got some of the release photos up. We'll cover it. I'll just go through the stats real quick, guys, like I normally do, and then we'll start to talk about it. Obviously, Darth Maul from the Phantom Menace, the DX series, where these are just a whole nother level of unboxing. The box, everything, it's a whole experience. If you have not opened a DX figure, whether it's a Joker, Jack Sparrow, whatever it is, get yourself a DX at one point. You will thank us later. So we'll start with the DX16, which was just the Maul figure. Retail price originally was $282. Announced for pre-order July 23rd, 2018. Chris, I think that was like one of the first things we covered on the podcast. Ultimately released June 13th, 2019. So coming up on a year, kind of a retro review here. And the figure DX17, which came with the Sith Speeder, obviously it had the same announced dates and release in Hong Kong as the DX16. This one originally retailed for $405. Came with the Bloodfin, the Sith Speeder. Whew, man, phenomenal figure.
Yep. Yeah. So I'll hand in my collector card right now. I just opened this figure today.
JT, TC, JT.
I've had this I know. I've had this figure for, 4 months now.
Oh, get off the show. You're fired.
I know. It's so bad. There was just something that, so Roy talks about this. Okay. You wait for a figure for so long and you watch all the reviews and you have it as your, the number one figure of the year. You've looked at all the images and everything, and it's like, then you receive it afterwards, and it's almost like kind of takes the wind out of your sails. But
Cletus has talked about that before.
Yeah, and so I was letting it simmer on the bottom shelf in the warehouse, and had a little bit of time today and picked that box up, and I'm like, holy cow, I forgot how heavy this box is, and just started opening up, and layer after layer you start unveiling, this masterpiece of a figure, all the details and the way a DX is packed. I've never opened one up before, but it's just a different experience. The quality for the box, the artwork, and then you see the, Darth Maul and multiple head sculpts, and yeah, I know, Cletus. We talked about that. It's just like, poof, the wind is just like, but anyway, I'm really glad that I have this figure. I do have the exclusive with the hologram there. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a must have accessory, but yeah, I'm just I cannot wait to eventually be able to get this guy into a display. It would be awesome if someday we could add an episode 1 Obi-Wan to recreate
Amen.
Recreate the famous scene in Naboo. Yeah, maybe we'll get it, but this guy on its own, it's clear to see why he was number one on our list and number one on many other lists.
I mean, we're showing that hanger on Naboo right now with one of the blogger photos. That scene is just so iconic. I didn't ever go back, and I was too young to see the original trilogy in theaters, and for whatever reason, I never made it to the special editions when those were released. I just didn't think to go. My parents didn't take me. I was still a huge Star Wars fan, but Episode 1 I saw in the theaters 4 times, and every time that Maul did the double-bladed lightsaber here, I just lost it every time. I mean, it's not everybody's favorite movie. I get that. It's not for everybody, but still, there's a lot of nostalgia for me regarding this film. And to see what I saw in film initially, to put it into the movie masterpiece line, not even movie masterpiece line, the DX line. You mentioned, Chris, you open that box, there's some weight to it. There's all the layers of foam, and there's all the special instructions as you open the figure. And then the figure itself, and it's just the head sculpt on this thing. Now, I will say there are some that don't feel that the red that they use is bright enough. I know Ian, who's collecting weekly, he's in our group, Tashi's a good customizer. He did a really good job about customizing the red, and I think it looks fantastic, but I don't see the need to customize mine. I'm okay with it. I think it still looks great. Nitpicky things that I have about the figure, guys. The overrobe isn't super great. I don't necessarily think that they cheaped out on it. It's just I would probably never display it that way. Obviously, if you wanted to create the scene on Tatooine when he fights Qui-Gon Jinn, you could do that. But man, it's just everything about this thing. It's just incredible. There's the other nitpicky thing I've seen is people feel like the neck is just it's rounded off, and each head sculpt that you can pop on with the purrs. So we haven't ever talked about the purrs, I don't think, on the podcast here. It's basically you can move the eyes on the head sculpts. They give you a little tool to do that. So if you wanted to customize the look even further, you can do that. But each of the head sculpts that come with this, there's the yelling face and then the non one. There's a magnet on it. Some people feel like it sits a little too low on the neck. So I've heard people that will add a little extra piece of foam padding or an extra magnet on it so the head sits up a little bit higher. I haven't done it myself. I don't see it per se, but I can understand why somebody would want to do that. I mean, at this point, it's going to be difficult to acquire this, guys. A lot of places are already, I know Sideshow is waitlisted. You could still jump on the waitlist. It's not like waitlist full. A lot of the other retailers, it's already sold out. You're going to look out of there. It's a must-have in a Star Wars collection. I mean, obviously, we're going to talk about DX-18 from the Solo movie at some point, but it's an entirely different incarnation of Maul. You could say it's half the figure that this one is, but that was a joke, guys.
It was not a good one.
It was.
Oh man,
this is one of those figures. Sorry, Chris, just jump in.
Go ahead.
Where like you can still find the DX-17 for pretty close to retail, but the DX-16 without the blood fin has spiked pretty highly. I think that one's a little more desirable, space purposes, I guess. Maybe the blood fin's not enough of a draw to get collectors to want to spend extra, I think $125. But you're right, Brian. I mean, the DX-16 is almost non-existent. The DX-17 is starting to thin out pretty much everywhere.
I mean, Chris, you opened the blood fin. I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, I've heard people talk about the reviews and stuff like that. I would just say the reason I didn't go for it personally is because I just wouldn't the figure is too cool to just have it sitting on it. Or I know Allison has done like this crazy pose with him like flipping off the the blood fin and igniting his lightsaber and stuff. It's just I didn't. I mean, it looks cool. Don't get me wrong. It's just, to me, it seems too scene specific, and it wasn't drawn to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a sucker for accessories, so I guess it just gave me that option to have it. It's not. I mean, it detail is really good, but it does not. It doesn't feel like it's that
$25.
no, it doesn't. It does not. But I mean, it definitely looks better than like a Kenner version or something like that. I don't regret buying this one by any means. I am glad that I have it. It's a cool piece. I can always switch things up accessory wise. So if they ever came out with a young Anakin Skywalker and you create that fight scene with little Annie and Qui-Gon, like you were talking about, but I don't know. Again, just a sucker for that. He comes with his little Sith whatever droids, the spy droids or droid, I should say. And then just a bunch of accessories, all kinds of different things to change up his look. Lots of lightsaber hilts, stuff like that. I mean, I literally just took it out of the box. So it really needs to be messed with to get it looking good. But I mean, it's cool because the head just pops off just like that. I mean, it's a pretty strong magnet. I think this is the perfect setup for Maul, just because he can be looking up, he can be looking down with not really much issues there. That magnetic head, neck is really cool. I know a number of other figures have it, like Iron Spider, and it just creates more posability for the figure. But again, it's a great looking figure, and in person, the red is not as bright as these blogger pictures. It is pretty dark. It's almost maroon. I mean, I think it looks good, but compared to those images, I mean, it looks like a totally different shade of red, honestly. Ian, he's on Only Fools and Collecting. He's got Dark Side Customs, I think is his deal. He's an amazing painter. He does paints a lot of these custom head sculpts. He's over in the UK. But yeah, I think Darth Maul is obviously one of the most recognizable Star Wars figures out there. And with his involvement with the Clone Wars and with Rebels and other areas of Star Wars, Solo, and he's just all over the place. So who knows what's to come with more content from him. And yeah, definitely one I'm glad I have.
Yeah, I figured I'd show our cover art again. I know Roy saved my photo. You try to use a lot of natural daylight when I captured this, so it does look a little bit more red in natural daylight.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's nitpicky here, Chris.
Yeah.
I think we're running a little long. Let's get a quick review of this in. Chris, how many blood fins would you rate Darth Maul on?
I mean, he's probably 4.75. I think there is those nitpicks. I haven't really been able to experience them with the cloak and all that stuff, but I can see, there's a little bit of area that could have been improved. How about you?
I mean, I had it as my figure of the year. I mean, I have to go essentially with a 5. I think that you can still have a 5 Yeah, 5 blood fins, even with a couple nitpicky things. There's just so much to the figure. I haven't even had the opportunity to really fully explore all the different options that are there. And I know Qui-Gon's going to be probably releasing within the month. I would imagine it'll be good to pair that. You mentioned you tug at my heartstrings a little bit with an episode 1 Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'll take all the Obi-Wan Kenobis that they give us. So episode 1, episode 2, Clone Wars, if they ever did that. Obi-Wan's one of my favorite characters too, but man, this is just a fantastic release. If you're a fan of Maul, if you really want to know more about him, I mean, this figure is one that I think once it sells out completely, it's definitely within the realm that this could be eventually a double retail figure. To get the DX16, actually, TC, you mentioned it, the DX16 is already creeping up now. If it's not already double, it probably will be at some point. I think the Bloodfin version, I think the funny thing is I think in the aftermarket wise, you may see them ended up being very similar in price just because people aren't going to be as into the Bloodfin or have the display space to be able to do that. So you may find that people devalue that accessory. I've seen people try to sell it individually. I don't think you're going to get $125 if I'm being honest, if you just decide to part it out. And I don't do that anymore. I don't condone parting out anymore. I've gone to rehab for that, and I do not suggest anybody part figures out ever again. You're welcome, Cletus.
Yeah. Unless you're doing it 100% part out, not just like a partial part out.
Yeah. That's true. You can actually make some money potentially.
Yeah, our co-host here is experimenting. Remember?
Yes, I am experimenting.
That's a different story, though. That's a horse of a different color.
Yeah,
but you're right, Brian. The pricing, it's kind of like Obi-Wan for Revenge of the Sith. No one really wants. I guess some people want the deluxe set, but the majority of collectors just want the basic figure. So then that price ends up creeping up, right, almost to what the deluxe cost is. It's very odd, but it's just kind of how it is.
It is weird. And that's kind of like why I went with the regular release of Han Solo, young Han Solo, as opposed to the deluxe, because I went with the deluxe Obi-Wan and I'm like, I'm never going to probably display it with these additional things. Who knows? I might. But still, it's like the regular version was gone and you could still find the deluxe. But yeah, it's just one of those weird collector things.
Yeah.
All right. So 5 months later, we finally covered our figure of the year. minor oversight. Our record keeping isn't entirely that good, but we fixed our error and we'll move on from there. So we're gonna get some more Marvel.
I know.
We're gonna get a Marvel review in here.
I'm looking at the list of images here, and it's just like Star Wars, and yeah, I don't know. Might have to go back and do another retro review for something Marvel.
Well, we've covered all mine, so it's going to be up to you and TC to figure that out.
I got plenty.
Yeah, we'll do that. So, all right, guys, run along. Good review. Pick up the figure if you still have an opportunity to. So we have our website, 60scavengers.com, with all those databases now. And I think today we published our 300th different page on there. It's a lot. It's been kind of fun to do it in this quarantine and stay at home, but it's something that I've wanted to do from the very beginning. And we were talking recently, Chris, about kind of the inspiration for it used to be like Jedi Business.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody that is a Star Wars 3 3/4, 6-inch collector of Hasbro and everything, like that's the site to go to. And that's kind of what I wanted our site to be eventually. And we'll get there. We still have a bunch more to do. And we don't get any kickback from anything. If you get something through eBay, we do, but it's mostly there to help out the Stevens Collectibles, the Underground Figures of the world. Not only to get business for pre-orders, but then once figures do sell out, if people don't know that they're there, they might not know to go and look for those figures there. I know Ray specifically has a couple figures available still at retail that have long since sold out everywhere else. So if you're looking for kind of an obscure Star Wars or Marvel figure, check out Underground Figures. Our TeePublic store, 60 Scavengers. Hopefully at some point we get some new designs up there, but if you kind of are influenced by Day One Preorder. We do have a t-shirt up there for that, and some of the others that Roy has done. We have our Facebook page. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, YouTube here, as you're probably watching us live, Spotify, Stitcher, and sixscalescavengers.libsyn.com if you want to throw that RSS feed into your podcast catcher of choice.
Very good stuff. I'm just going to throw this. This is super random and not 1/6 related, but if anybody, most of you probably don't know, but back in the day, I used to be involved with motorsports racing. I was on a BMW professional race team on the pit crew and all that stuff. And my cousin, he started LeddyMotorsports.com, and it's a website dedicated to modifying high-end cars and stuff. So I just wanted to give it a quick plug. I'm loosely associated, basically a consultant at this point, but just for anybody that's into car stuff, definitely check out LeddyMotorsports.com and see what's going on there. My cousin's currently building an M3 race car, so it's just some fun stuff to check out. And there'll be some cross promotion on his part down the line. I don't know if there's much 6-scale collecting to car stuff and going on there, but I know Roy's definitely into that sort of thing. But yeah, check out that on Instagram and the website.
Good stuff, guys. Any final thoughts?
What's coming next?
It'll drop tonight.
Yeah,
I know that for a fact.
Yep.
I don't know. There's been a lot of activity on Facebook. I'm wondering if we've missed something while we've been recording, but it's too late now. Yeah, nothing. Yeah, it doesn't seem like anything. So, like you said, TC, I'm sure we're gonna get something at some point here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. So lots of activity in the 40s or so turning live. Maybe TCU said we might have gotten 46 at one point. So thank you to everybody that tuned in live. And if you're listening on the download, we certainly appreciate it. We do this because we love it. It's a lot of fun, but hopefully you enjoy it as much as we do. So, Chris, my friend, bring us home.